This is an ABC News special report. Now reporting, George Stephanopoulos.
And good morning. We're coming in the air right now with breaking news on impeachment. That is the scene on Capitol Hill right now, where House Speaker Nancy Pelosi expected to make a major announcement about the impeachment inquiry. This was announced by her staff overnight. Of course, it comes in the wake of yesterday's hearing at the House Judiciary Committee, the first hearing at the House Judiciary Committee, where they heard from constitutional scholars. 3 constitutional scholars chosen by the Democrats who strongly supported the idea of impeachment based on the evidence gathered so far in the House Intelligence Committee. Also, Republican witness Jonathan Turley from George Washington University, who said the Democrats should take more time, get more witnesses. I want to go to our senior congressional correspondent, Mary Bruce, who's on Capitol Hill. We know, Mary, that before that hearing, Speaker Pelosi met with her colleagues and asked, are you ready for an impeachment?
Yeah, George, and in response to that question, the Speaker did not get any objections in the room. She has been taking the temperature of her members. And look, while it has been very clear for weeks the Democrats are certainly moving in the direction of impeachment, Speaker Pelosi herself has been very coy. She has not directly said whether or not she believes the president should be impeached. She has said she's reserving judgment, waiting for this investigation to play out, waiting to see where the facts lead. The big question this morning, is she about to come into that room and say that she is ready to take the next step? Will she announce that she now believes the president has abused his power and should be impeached? And if she does, will she offer any clues about the scope of any impeachment or any timeline as they look to make this next step?
Those are the big questions, Mary Wright. I'm here with Kate Shaw, constitutional scholar as well. And we did see some clues yesterday from the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Gerald Nadler, that perhaps they would try to include the facts about obstruction from the Mueller report in an article of impeachment here.
That's right. So, of course, the Intelligence Committee really focused on the Ukraine episode. But Nadler yesterday opened by talking about 2016 and Russia. And he quoted from the Mueller report, the Trump campaign welcomed and benefited from Russian interference in the 2016 election. And he seemed to be trying to draw a straight line between that interference and President Trump's conversation with Ukrainian President Zelensky in the Democrats attempting to coerce political investigations to impact 2020.
And the Democrats have been caught in something of a dilemma on this issue of witnesses. They haven't gotten the testimony from people like Rudy Giuliani, from Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, from Mick Mulvaney, the OMB director, who might be able to strengthen their case, yet they know if they go to court, they could also run out for months and months.
That's right. The Democrats seem to want to move quickly on this, and courts tend to move slowly. So some time ago, I think the Democrats seem to have made the strategic call, rather than trying to litigate all of this to completion, they would simply look at the universe of evidence available to them. And they got quite a lot. Many witnesses, despite White House objections, did come forward and testify. But of course, as you say, some critical witnesses have been so far unwilling to testify. So some of this is continuing to play out in court. And I think it's at least conceivable that although the House hasn't gotten any of this testimony, if there's more to happen in the Senate, some of that could still be in play by the time we get to a Senate trial.
New witnesses at the Senate. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been calling the shots on impeachment. She was reluctant to go for impeachment while Robert Mueller was investigating, even after his report was issued, yet she has changed her mind, announced an impeachment inquiry on September 24th, and now the Speaker of the House.
Good morning. Let us begin where our founders began in 1776, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them with another. With those words, our founders courageously began our Declaration of Independence from an oppressive monarch for, among other grievances, the king's refusal to follow rightfully passed laws. In the course of today's events, it becomes necessary for us to address, among other grievances, the president's failure to faithfully execute the law. When crafting the Constitution, the founders feared the return of a monarchy in America. And having just fought a war of independence, they specifically feared the prospect of a king president corrupted by foreign influence. During the Constitutional Convention, James Madison, the architect of the Constitution, warned that a president might betray his trust to foreign powers, which might prove fatal to the Republic. Another founder, Governor Morris, feared that a president may be bribed by a greater interest to betray his trust. He emphasized that this magistrate is not the king. The people are the king. They therefore created a constitutional remedy to protect against a dangerous or corrupt leader. impeachment. Unless the Constitution contained an impeachment provision, one founder warned, a president might, quote, spare no effort or means whatsoever to get himself reelected. Similarly, George Mason insisted that a president who procured his appointment in his first instance through improper and corrupt acts might repeat his guilt and return to power. During the debate over impeachment at the Constitutional Convention, George Mason also asked, "Shall any man be above justice? Shall that man be above it who can commit the most extensive injustice?" In his great wisdom, he knew that injustice committed by the president erodes the rule of law, the very idea of fair justice, which is the bedrock of our democracy. And if we allow a president to be above the law, we do so surely at the peril of our republic. In America, no one is above the law. Over the past few weeks, through the Intelligence Committee working with the Foreign Affairs and Oversight Committees, the American people have heard the testimony of truly patriotic career public servants, distinguished diplomats, and decorated war heroes, some of the president's own appointees. The facts are uncontested. The president abused his power for his own personal political benefit at the expense of our national security by withholding military aid and crucial Oval Office meeting in exchange for an announcement of an investigation into his political rival. Yesterday, at the Judiciary Committee, the American people heard testimony from leading American constitutional scholars who illuminated without a doubt that the president's actions are a profound violation of the public trust. The president's actions have seriously violated the Constitution, especially when he says and acts upon the belief. Article 2 says I can do whatever I want. No, his wrongdoing strikes at the very heart of our Constitution, a separation of powers, 3 co-equal branches, each a check and balance on the other. A republic, if we can keep it, said Benjamin Franklin. Our democracy is what is at stake. The president leaves us no choice but to act because he is trying to corrupt, once again, the election for his own benefit. The president has engaged in abuse of power, undermining our national security and jeopardizing the integrity of our elections. His actions are in defiance of the vision of our founders and the oath of office that he takes to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Sadly, but with confidence and humility, with allegiance to our founders and a heart full of love for America, today I am asking our chairman to proceed with articles of impeachment. I commend our committee chairs and our members for their somber approach to actions which I wish the president had not made necessary. In signing the Declaration of Independence, our founders invoked a firm reliance on divine providence. Democrats, too, are prayerful, and we will proceed in a manner worthy of our oath of office to support and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Thank you.
There you have it from the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, saying America's democracy is at stake. The president has left us no choice. She will direct her committee chairman to draw up articles of impeachment. Mary Bruce up on Capitol Hill. We've known that she's been heading in this direction for weeks and months, rooted the announcement of an inquiry into the Constitution, the announcement of articles of impeachment, and the Declaration of Independence.
And George, you heard from the speaker there. She says the facts are uncontested. The president has abused the office for his own personal benefit. And she went on to note that this is important to do right now because she says the president leaves us no choice because he is jeopardizing the current election. She, of course, says that she is now leaving it up to judiciary to go ahead and draft articles of impeachment. And based on what we heard from Chairman Nadler yesterday at that hearing, they seem likely to pursue articles based around abuse of power, possibly bribery, and also obstruction.
And Kate Shaw here as well. We didn't get a lot from the speaker there on what the scope of the articles would look like, but we do know it's going to be focused on those requests to Ukraine, and she emphasized the announcement of an investigation when she talked about that. Didn't get into any details on obstruction.
No, but I think that the kind of abuse of power, the violation of the oath of office, those were the themes that she sort of returned to. And so interesting that she starts with the Declaration of Independence, which some scholars say kind of begins with almost articles of impeachment against the monarch from whom the colonists were breaking. And so, maybe that original kind of break from an oppressive tyrant, she's obviously trying to draw an analogy to what she's, formalizing in an additional way today. But I think abuse of power will be the center. We didn't hear her say anything about bribery per se, so I think that remains an open question.
But she did, and this was emphasized by the Democrats' witnesses yesterday, she did emphasize that the framers were especially concerned that a president would be corrupted by foreign influence.
That's right. So, and you heard the law professors yesterday talk about this. Why did the framers write impeachment into the Constitution? They were worried about foreign influence. They were worried about a corrupt ruler. They were worried about someone who used corrupt means to entrench himself in power. Some of the testimony yesterday suggested that this saga is a perfect storm of all of those kinds of considerations, and she seemed to allude to all of that today.
Okay, Kate, thanks very much. Your senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega there in Washington. The president probably saw this coming, had a tweet earlier this morning telling the Democrats move fast.
Yeah, George, he in fact definitely was watching this one. He's here in the White House right now. He says this morning over Twitter, if you're going to impeach me, do it now fast so we can have a fair trial in the Senate and so that our country can get back to business. So now we know the president, his allies on Capitol Hill, his allies here in the White House and outside are now gearing up for a trial in the Senate. They want to call live witnesses. Aides of the president said that yesterday to reporters there on Capitol Hill. And instead of videotaped depositions like we saw back in the Clinton impeachment, they want actual live witnesses. They're not providing details on what those witnesses might be. But, George, you heard Speaker Pelosi there say his wrongdoing strikes at the very heart of our Constitution. A few weeks ago, I asked President Trump if he was resigned to the House moving forward with impeachment. He said that he was. So the president saw this coming. But no doubt, George, this is a historic day for this country.
The battle is on. No turning back for the Democrats right now. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has come out and instructed her chairman to draft articles of impeachment against President Trump. We're going to return now to our regular programming. For many of you, that is Good Morning America, especially on the East Coast. And coverage of impeachment will continue on ABC News Live. Have a good day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.